it's loud, right? The need and the I need this, I need this, I need this is so loud. It's the screaming kid in the grocery aisle. I want it. And we just
Yeah.
go, hey, fine, if you'll shut up, I'll give it to you.
Because it was built for survival and it needs to be loud if it's about survival. But in our modern world, most of us are not worried about survival.
Yeah. But they can create a survival response by giving the mind something that it can get hooked on. So the mind now thinks that it's about survival.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I
Yeah.
mean, we have been so hoodwinked when it comes to the food that we consume. And, as I am walking this path back to health sovereignty and, working on this dream and acquiring the property and building the reality, and I start to think of what you were talking about, the amount of the concentration of fat and salt and sugar that we consume doesn't exist anywhere readily that consistently.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going to the chicken coop and just down in fresh eggs and just, you know what I mean? Like that you can have these nuggets of concentrations of fat and sugar and salt. But by and large, our diet is in our natural state, not one where we're eating these super dense, concentrated amounts of something in that way all of the time.
Yeah.
Because we're omnivores.
Yeah. And if we try to find a fat source and just go hog wild,
Yeah.
our body would give us signals like, no, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah,
We're good here.
seems sort of silly, but it reminds me of several years ago, there was the social media challenge of trying to consume a whole gallon of milk. Every single time someone would throw it up because the body's saying, are you kidding me? I'm not
Yeah.
ingesting all of this. No way.
Yeah. And it's a very good, our bodies are so intelligent, as we mentioned before. The the signals it gives us sometimes are quiet or overshadowed. And it's our job to begin listening again.
Yeah. And another one that I can offer, and this is one that I have recently come to, and you and I had a brief discussion about this, about the different types of hunger. But one I have found to be really, really powerful, and maybe somebody who is trying to reshape their relationship with food can use this and appreciate it. I just simply started asking myself when I started to realize like these mindless patterns when I was stoned, right, and had the munchies, just mindlessly go to the pantry, pick something. What I did recently is I stopped myself before I ate. I said, okay, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. I asked myself, where is the hunger? It was not in my stomach. In fact, it was nowhere in my body. It was just up here in this sort of cloud of ideas around me that was saying, hey, yeah, wouldn't that be good? Like those salty, crunchy things in there, or that creamy, chocolatey, sweet thing. Oh, yeah, of course, the mind would say, hell yes, give me all of it. But when I really stopped to ask myself, where is the hunger? There was none.
Yeah.
That's mind boggling. When you really
And
stop to think of that.
yeah, and a very powerful example of the body language.
Yeah, and I really hope that people will actually begin to apply this. You can do it, but just have to tell me why. And sure, if you're hungry, eat, but where is the hunger? What are we feeding?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Because I think that if we're talking about sovereignty, for me, that begins with what goes in my body. And certainly, I have been one to shove things in my body that it didn't necessarily need or even want.
Mhm.
But to begin to start to ask myself, okay, who has dominion over my body? Me, period. And anybody else that I choose to sign some sort of consent form to. But ultimately, only I get to decide what passes this barrier. And that was the beginning of this journey for me was who gets to decide what goes in my body? When I really started this sovereignty path several years ago around lockdown, and everyone was having the conversation about body authority and body autonomy and body sovereignty. And I really started to see, actually, I'm the one that gets to decide what goes in my body. And then to take that and extend that idea to food. I eat really healthy and I grow a lot of my own food, but I go to the grocery store too. And I have my favorite snacks and I have my favorite treats. And when I just really started to look at, okay, I am a bit of an ingredient scanner. I know the ones to look out for, but why am I putting this in my body? And is this something I really want to introduce into my ecosystem? And then by extension, I was thinking, okay, consumption is also what I watch, what I listen to, what I read. So it all is consumed in some way and becomes a part of the body. But for me, that is where sovereignty began, and really where it ends ultimately is with my body and who has control and authority over that.
We're embodied in this physical form, and it's our temple. That's what I like to say. And we have the authority, but also the responsibility to this body. And I agree with you. What we take in is not just food, but also information. So it's all becoming us, whether it's part of our thoughts and beliefs or actual physical skin and tissues. And it's up to us what gets past the door, what gets into the kingdom. And for me, not having any education really on nutrition in medical school, I'm self-taught and learning things every day because the research is still coming out. But I think I can confidently say that a varied diet with focused, concentrated nutrition, and I don't mean sugar, salt, or fat, I mean actual nutrients that your bodies need, the vitamins and the phytonutrients. If you focus on that and make room for that, you will see a big difference in your health and your wellness and longevity. But if we are allowing programs and the pleasure trap to run our intake, that's going to crowd out most of the nutrient-rich foods. One, because there's just no room, and we've already been satisfied by low nutrient, high calorie foods. And two, our taste buds change. So we desire more of those kinds of foods. We aren't satisfied until we have that level of salt or that level of sugar or that level of fat. And that's a process to undo that as well.
Yeah. And it's, it's what I just shared about my cannabis, my relationship with cannabis, that chronic consumption made an actual physiological change in my body. Now, it wasn't permanent. It's reversing itself right now. And tonight I'll finally sleep well. But it's and we think we could extrapolate that, right? We can create diabetes in the body. We can create heart disease in the body. We can create states that aren't necessarily natural. We think they're natural because it happens to a lot of people, right? But we can absolutely create these disintegrated, imbalanced states, and the body can only do so much. Like if we're just not going to pay attention and continue to consume and consume, at some point the body says, well, I can't stop you from doing this. And you said something in our conversation before we recorded that I think is really important. And you were referencing how when you're working with clients who are ready to make new choices and reframe their relationship with your body, and you were talking about being kind and not guilting or shaming yourself. Could you just touch on that briefly? Because I think that's really
Yeah.
huge.
And, let's use your smoking example. So let's say someone has that realization that, oh, I've been using smoking to give myself a moment of peace, a moment of relaxation, a moment to unplug. I shouldn't have been doing that. While that's true, you don't have to go back and shame yourself. And in fact, during the process of unraveling now and making a new behavior of not smoking and finding other ways to unplug and relax, there might be some wobble or a period of adjustment. So if you can take out the shame from that realization and recognize, have some compassion for yourself that during that time that you were smoking, you were doing the best you could to solve that need of relaxation and peace. But now that you have the awareness, you can choose a more sovereign choice. What other way can I meet this need without the cigarettes that are also bringing some harm?
Yeah, that's huge because when you know better, you do better. And I absolutely agree that we only ever make our choices from a place of, well, this is the best option I have. This
Yes.
is or the only option I have, or I don't know how else. And I think that's another thing is if someone is in this place of being who is ready to embark on a new relationship, but they don't know how, a really simple way that I have found is just ask, okay, spirit, universe, God, whatever you believe in, that higher power, just say, please remind me of how to have a better relationship, a healthier relationship with my food or whatever. And just trust that now you have made that request. It was an intentional statement that you put out there. So the body and the mind are now even activated in a new direction, and that information will come. inspiration, a connection, a video, a book, something you hear, it will begin to come into your awareness. So just pay attention.
Yeah. And I would say in this day and age, there's so much available for assistance, information, and people. It would be hard not to run into the information that you need.
I agree. Well, as always, this has been fascinating conversation.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Thanks for showing up. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you on our next episode.